Hey guys, Dale here. Today we're looking at my whites boot semi-dress in brown dress leather. This boot. You may have seen these online, but how much have you seen them really worn in? We're gonna check those out today, because mine have got 4.5 years of wear, and they've really come a long way with development and patina. Let's get to it. But first, let's talk a little bit about this boot from the maker. It is the original semi-dress boot from 1932, made for workers and factories and all around, as opposed to loggers and outdoorsmen. This is more of a factory and typical work boot. It has a 5-inch full grain water resistant leather upper. This is the brown dress leather, and an awesome leather, and one that is a quote-unquote basic option, but which I think is just an incredible leather with a lot of comfort and potential for wear. It's got the leather midsole and shank that Whites is known for, and it's built on the 55 Archies last, which has a pretty good amount of arch support, which does require breaking in. It took me just about a week though, and turned into a really comfortable pair of boots with time. So that is the brief rundown on this boot. Next up, we're going to talk about my experience with them and them broken in. All right, so here's my pair of white semi-dress and brown dress leather. It's actually one of two pairs that I have of the semi-dress. The other is in black dress leather. It's the boot so nice, I bought it twice. This pair has two main differences from the standard configuration. One, the heel is the block or traveler heel instead of that logger heel. And the sole is a Western sole rather than the standard half comp sole. So this is a bit of a softer sole. You can see with the way that this heel, it's lower, and in fact the whole back profile of the boot looks a little bit sunken in compared to the standard. The whole thing is just shifted downwards. It does make for a very comfortable gait. The stride with this heel is in fact better for traveling in my experience, and it makes for just a really comfortable walk in this boot. Obviously, you can also see that the wear on this boot in 4.5 years of just standard use, the sides, these fronts on the toe box in particular get a lot of wear. The outside of the toe box also gets a fair bit of wear, and they're just kind of glowing. When they're brand new, they look so dark and so even that it could be mistaken for black in some pictures, but with time, that outer dye has worn away overall, and then has these really high wear areas where it's a much lighter brown, and it just makes for just a beautiful boot. It is just one of the leathers that is not special. It's not a upcharge. There's nothing that makes this leather hard to get, but it is just really good. And it's a leather that I fell in love with whenever I saw pictures of other people's boots on the internet and the way that they had worn them in. And I just really have been enjoying the way this leather has changed with time. Now, I would also say, just so you could understand how it got to look this way, I do not work a trade job. I am in and out of the car a lot, and I do a lot of walking for work. And I've worn these boots in all sorts of weather. I live in South Louisiana, so no snow, and I'm not going in mud. So just standard city use, I would say, with some mild in-town hikes in the little forest that we have that's within the city limits. I have conditioned these boots once, and it was with Saphir Medaille d'Or, because that's just what I happen to have. It was a gift to me. And they've just really been looking great with time. The back of these boots, I would say it's a voluptuous look. I read that in someone's description of it, and I have to agree. These boots have a badonk. There is a curve to this backside of the boot. You can also see I'm a pretty heavy outside heel striker and the wear on these boots. Now, that is after 4.5 years, and I have not replaced them, so looking pretty good in my opinion. Now, this is just another angle kind of showing the top down and the side at the same time. I want to point out kind of two problems with the boot. One, if you see on the right side there, and this is not mirrored on the other boot, that reflection right in the middle of the foot, there is kind of a wrinkly bit there, and it's something that it's not perfect, but it's a work boot, and I think it looks great and is within the character and expectation for our work boot to have some amount of waviness like that. And then also I want to point out the double stitching around the outside. you can see, I mean, this is a handmade boot, a hand stitched, hand bottom, hand everything boot. And that double line of stitching, it is not perfectly straight or even. And I think it has a lot of charm because of that. And I know that I'm wearing a handmade pair of boots, but some people have complained online about that. And I think they're kind of short-sighted. Neither imperfection has ever impaired the functionality of the boot. Let's look at this boot in the sunlight. So I wanted to kind of show the difference in lighting for this boot and also show off this heel a little bit more if you're interested in this Western style heel. So one, it is obviously a lighter tone and it is still clearly brown. You can see a little bit better the markings in the sun of just the scrapes and all that kind of stuff. It does make it a little bit harder to see those lighter tones, but you can see the actual physical marks a little bit better. And then talking about this heel, you can see it is worn away a bit where I have the highest amount of pressure in the ball of my foot. And it should be little lines there, but they're all smoothed out. I've also found with this particular sole, it is easy to walk around on and has good grip, but little bits of stuff get stuck in those little tiny lines, little tiny pieces of gravel. I had gum stuck in there once. It was a huge pain in the butt to get out. On balance, I'm really happy with that sole. Let's take a look at these boots in motion. I think it's going to give us a better feel for the three-dimensional nature of this boot. The size of that toe box. And these are an 8EE, by the way. I don't think I mentioned the size earlier. And you can also better see the crease marks along that toe and the wear that has developed. Just really the voluptuousness, that word again, of this boot is more apparent while we look at it in motion and seeing those curves as they move. Really, this boot has broken in beautifully. I found it really did not take very long either with this sole and this leather, maybe about a week, and it was comfortable, extremely comfortable. And it has only become more comfortable with time. You can see also that stitching along the edge of the toe box. It's not the most even, you know, but still beautiful in its own way. Looking inside the boot, you can see the leather. Now, this, I'm trying to give a feel of the texture of it. This tongue is not attached all the way up. It is made of a softer material than the rest of the boot. This particular pair is unlined. You can see I have a toe box in there. It's much firmer on the toe. That does lead to a crease forming along the edge of it. There's kind of a roll actually right there at the edge of that Celastic toe box. The heel on this boot is extremely strong. Squeezing it, essentially, it does not give at all. And everything about it is just so super sturdy, to be honest, that it has really stood the test of time. I will have to replace these heels eventually, but still they're good for me for now. I also want to give kind of a feel for how this boot works with different colors in this brown dress leather. So I've worn it with all of these things from left to right. We have a black pair of jeans, a blue pair of jeans, a pair of olive ripstop chinos, a pair of kind of dark brown chinos, and a pair of ecru jeans. You know, really this pair of boots has worked with all of those things, and there's a whole color theory, a color wheel that you could pull out to really compare different shades and tones and figure out what works with what. But I really find that at this dark of a color, it is really versatile and goes with a lot of other colors. Just that's kind of the nature of dark browns, is it is just a versatile color. And I think as it is worn in and it has those lighter tones, the worn in boots just also tend to work better with other stuff. Just in general, worn in things work better with other stuff because they look like just a part of you and not just something put on for the outfit. All in all, a really versatile color and boot choice. So final thoughts. Awesome boots, beautiful boots, comfortable boots, just a bunch of superlatives, I suppose you could say. They do cost $710 nowadays, which is a pretty penny. They will basically last forever and only look better, but I suppose it's up for you if you want to decide that $710 is worth it. I gotta say though, with the level of comfort and just sturdiness, that I think that you will be able to ride this boot for a really long time, and that depending on how often you wear them, yes, you might need to resole them, but they can be resoled. And it will probably be the kind of thing that if you like the style, you'll be able to get the wears in to get that value at a reasonable place by getting the cost per wear way down. So anyways, do you have a pair of White's boots? Do you have a pair of White's boots semi-dress? Are they in brown dress leather? What'd you think about the review? Anything that you want to share? I love seeing comments and responding to them. Hope you have an awesome day.